Thank you so much. Wow, what a beautiful group we have before us. And I want to thank you for asking me to come speak at your commencement. I do know that you've been thinking a lot what you plan to do after you're free. Now with the convertible top down and your hair blowing in the wind. But wait a minute, please bear with me because I have something. I want to speak for 5 hours. Do you mind if I speak for 5 hours? What are you laughing about? But before I begin, I'd just like to share with you about the interpreters. You know, from my experience in giving presentations and translating my own work and my own presentation and translating that into an English version, as I wrote this took me 8 hours to translate this. Now, this 9-minute presentation. So the interpreter is going to have to do this in real time, immediately. So I need to ask the interpreter, would you like to give you last rites? Now, you graduates here, once you step off this campus, you're going to really go across many bridges. And you cross them many days of your life. And crossing these bridges, they were built basically by our deaf leaders who came before us to help us to meet the world at large. But for one moment now, how many of you have driver's license? Could you raise your hand here in the class? Okay, we have a few. And you're thrilled to have your driver's license. Back in the 20s and 30s, deaf people were not allowed to drive. So deaf people had fought to show that they are capable drivers, and sure enough, they convinced the legislature, and that bridge was created for you. So here we are, crossing that bridge without even thinking about it. All the sweat and work of building that bridge was really not done by myself. Now think for a moment. Just coming here today, how many bridges did you cross? I'm talking about physical bridges. Maybe you drove across certain highways, over creeks, maybe 100. Many bridges, because we do have lots of creeks where you would not even be aware that there's a bridge. And there's also train tracks. Or sometimes you find yourself going across highways and so forth, and you feel nothing. It is basically something that you just take for granted. And it's gone, and it's right there. You get here, like for example, I live in Fishers, I arrived here in 25 minutes. If I didn't have those bridges, it'd probably take me a day or two to try to navigate around all of these little creeks, and then I would be stuck in the mud and maybe have to get help to get pushed out of it. So, these bridges are absolutely crucial for all of us to be recognizing. And the reason that I'm using this analogy is that we don't notice these bridges and you don't appreciate them, but people were involved in creating these bridges. It took engineers, it took much construction. Some bridges may take years to build, just like we look at the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. But once it's finished, you drive across it and you don't even think anything of it. But there's a point to this. Now, another key part to this whole issue of bridges and the purpose of bridges is to bridge one side to another side. There may be water, a gully, train tracks, a valley, but you are to bridge between the two sides so that people can cross from one side to the other. Likewise, I think that it's important for us to realize that the base of these bridges have to be built on strong foundations. If one side is weak and cracked, it's going to be impossible to build a safe bridge because you're not going to be able to keep things level. One side will collapse. Likewise, when we look at the deaf world and the hearing world, we need to bridge these as well. It's important that you're strong and understand the strong foundation. And the point being, as being deaf, it is a positive thing for us. American Sign Language is something that we value. And we have a lot to offer to the world at large, that we are proud of being deaf. And this strong foundation can enable us to bridge the gap between deaf and hearing people. We won't be weak. We won't falter in our identity. Okay, so now that we talk about a strong, deaf-centered person, what does this mean? Let me just give you a term. You know the word deafness? Have you heard that word or seen it? It's a medical view. It's a pathological term. And people view you as broken. You're not able to enjoy the world at large. Oh, poor you. And I know you don't agree with that. Do you agree? I think that do you think that people should pity you? No. Likewise, when we see the word deafness, that perspective, even though you have so much to contribute, and offer to the world, people may not view you as viable and have to fix you or cure you of your being deaf. So, looking at an individual by only their hearing loss and measuring you by that is not really valid. I look at each and every one of you. I see bright, enthusiastic, a little bit restless too. And you're probably saying, could you please shut up so that we can run off and enjoy the rest of our summer vacation? But we want to look at you as a whole person, your dreams, what motivates you, the goals, how you want to change the world. I could see that in you. Yes, I do. Again, with the word deafness, and true, I would agree that it is a biological fact that our ears do not work. But does that biological fact define us? Well, all of us have different biological differences. Some have skin color. Some have different heights and different sizes of body mass. So what does it mean from society to view? It's important that we understand that we're more than just what being measured by our ears. And we reject being concerned that term deafness because we are not defined by our hearing. We are not here because we're lonely and isolated, so we had to create ASL in order to keep ourselves busy. American Sign Language is an actual language like any other language, and it is a unique thing that we can offer the world. Sign language can be used by hearing people, and it can be used in environments where they have a loud equipment, or at a rock concert, or if you're scuba diving, you could talk about deep philosophical things underwater. So ASL has a benefit for all. So we reject the whole notion of deafness. Rather, we need to define ourselves differently. There was a brilliant deaf man who, by the name of Dr. Patty Ladd, and he had written a text, and if you were to try to pick this book up, it's pretty hefty. It weighs about 5 pounds. But don't make fun of me because I'm fairly weak, but this is a pretty heavy book. But yet, the way he defines deaf people in their search of that term, and he came up with deafhood. Deafhood is very positive. And his view of deaf culture is very positive. Some people are unique, have cochlear implants. Some people are hard of hearing, can use the telephone. Like for myself, I'm proud to be profoundly deaf, and I'm not able to use spoken English. There's a much diversified community, and we're not defined by our audiogram. If someone can use a telephone and I can't, that doesn't make that person better than me. We're both deaf, and we're proud of our deafhood. So deafhood seems to unify all of us. within the deaf community. And likewise, like motherhood, fatherhood, childhood, brotherhood, sisterhood. So these are our experiences, and we may be unique in our own experiences, but we can relate to one another. Likewise, that is what we can see as the term deafhood. So, the term deafhood is one way to bridge ourselves within the hearing community. And being strong is important. I'm different from people that can hear, sure, but I can still be deaf, and we can build a bridge from our side to the other side, and we can have free and easy access between both worlds. Is that okay? And so, again, back to the illustration of bridges. We in the deaf community, myself, need each and every one of you, each of you, to help build more bridges. This is a definite need that we have in the deaf community. We need you. And I know that some of you may say, what, who, me? Well, maybe my neighbor can. I don't know if I can. But no, each of you has a role, has a job, has something to contribute to building that bridge. The deaf community is not as strong as it could be. Our numbers are few, of leaders are few and far between. Our community services have been cut. Our ability to communicate clearly has been reduced because of the system of 140 years pushing against us and oppression. But this oppression is real, and it's not right. It is wrong. It's just injustice. This oppression causes us to falter and weaken. So we need more leadership. We need some more followers. We need you to roll up your sleeves and work with us. So when we cross many bridges, and many of us have, that our forefathers have created for us, we walk across them without even thinking. And think, why don't you appreciate these beautiful bridges that our forefathers have built before us, but we don't recognize them, and that's okay. It's good. Because if you don't stop and think about it too much, you're not going to be able to move on to the next pathway and a larger valley that we have to cross, and we need to go across it. So go ahead and cross the bridges that have been built for us and build new ones, and build them and make sure that you take pictures, because we want to share these with our children and grandchildren, because many people will not recognize or even be aware of the bridges that you've built. So that's the journey that we are going to go through. It's not something we're going to sit back and wait and let someone tell me what to do. Rather, if you find a need and no one is doing it, volunteer. Don't wait. Don't wait for an invitation. Move forward. Yes, we do believe in you. And you will make a difference in the paths that we will cross. 20, 30 years from now, I'll think it'll be impossible that you could have done such a thing. And you will fly across those bridges. And bless you on your deafhood journey.